Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today here at Earth and Sky. And those of you online, we appreciate you and always love to hear your feedback. This is going to be a two-part special because we are coming up to one of my favorite holidays of all of the holidays that there are. Although I might say that when we get to Yule as well. But right now, we are coming into the third of the three harvest festivals. We passed Lammas, we just recently talked about Mabon, and now, guess what we're coming up to? Samhain! Yes, it is so exciting. I love this time of year. I love the spiced ciders and the falling leaves and the beautiful colors and the cool chill that begins to come in the air as Halloween nears. So once we are coming up to next week, we'll be turning our wheel again as we are getting closer and closer to All Hallows Eve. Our next episode will actually be airing on Halloween. So I wanted to talk to you about a little bit of some things that you can do to prepare so that you aren't trying to scramble and get everything together the day of Halloween. If you would like to celebrate some of the rituals that are associated with this wonderful, bewitching holiday that is coming up to all of us. There is a long history that goes with Samhain. Of course, the name Samhain comes from the Celts, and it is known by All Hallows Eve, very much more recently Halloween. This is a day where we honor those that have passed. This is a wonderful day for a few reasons. One, we honor our ancestors. We honor all of those who have transitioned to the other side, that we want to keep their memories alive. We want to give our respects to them. We want to honor the lessons and the wisdom that we have learned from them, whether they are people that we've known in this lifetime or maybe people that we know of because of the legends and legacies that they have left behind for us. It is also the beginning of the new year, the day after Halloween. It is the time that we turn the wheel and we say adieu to all of the harvest that we've been working so hard at throughout the year. As we talk about the wheel, so often we've talked about how the winter becomes the time for planning. It's the time of the new year, new beginnings, new goals, new things to think about. And then you plant those seeds in the spring and you sow them and you work hard at them throughout the summer as you have longer days to enjoy it all. And then you come into the harvest and you enjoy the fruits of your labor and all of those things that you have tilled within your life. And this is the third of those three harvest festivals. So I hope you've been enjoying some time over the last couple of months of thinking about what you have done in your life. When we were back in the days of more farming, we would see it very literally as the harvest. Now it is sometimes more about what are you building in your relationships? What are you building in your business? What are you building that matters for the legacy that you will leave behind once you see the ferryman and you cross to the great beyond in whatever way you see that afterlife as being. But this is the time to honor those who have already made that journey. So there will be a few things that you may want to gather for next week when we talk about it. Some things like apples and acorns and fall leaves and candles, or maybe a bonfire if you want to have everything ready for a bonfire. That can be a really wonderful and fun way to celebrate. I'll be giving you the rest of the list at the end of the life talk, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about soul cakes. So we've done other life talks on this holiday already where we talked quite extensively about the traditions of the Celts, and then we talked about some other traditions in another year. And so this time I wanted to talk to you a bit about soul cakes. I don't think I've talked about that in our previous life talks, but soul cakes are something that really became quite popular around the 8th century when we were in the darker ages. And it was a time that the people that it originated from a sort of a tradition that the Druids had, which was a little bit harsher tradition that happened with the soul cakes. You didn't want to get the burnt soul cake. I'll just leave it at that. But soul cakes continued on into the Dark Ages, and it changed its tradition so that those who were poor in the communities would knock on the doors of the wealthy on All Hallows Eve, and they would request a soul cake. And in exchange for those soul cakes, they would give prayers up to the loved ones, to the ancestors of the wealthier families, so that those souls could ascend, so they could cross through to and have what they needed with the prayers and the respects that needed to be given to help those souls. And the tradition was one soul cake for one soul saved. And it had kind of continued a bit with some of the Christian traditions that were beginning to expand in that era as well. There are a lot of interesting recipes for soul cakes if it is something that you decide you want to add in for your All Hallows Eve celebration. And so some of those recipes, I'm not going to give you lots of recipes today because you might want to look up and see what resonates with you. You can get wonderful, beautifully scented soul cakes when you make them with a yellow, it turns into a beautiful yellow soul cake when you use saffron and egg yolks. And the symbolism of the yellow, one, the saffron will smell really good and give it a great taste, but the yellow symbolizes the dying of the sun, because the reason that we are celebrating All Hallows Eve as the time to honor our dead comes from the fact that we are saying a bit of a good night to the sun as we prepare to enter into the winter days, as the days get colder and the nights get longer and we see less and less and less of the sun going through this time of winter. And so when you are using the soul cakes with that beautiful, vibrant yellow sun, it's a way to pay homage to the sun as you say goodbye for now, and we prepare for the sun to later begin its journey of making our days lighter again. But there are other recipes that you can do that resemble more of the English biscuit style. You might want to do a pastry that has raisins or that has currants. In some of the Christian traditions, they would draw a cross with the currants or the raisins across the soul cake, representing the ascension of the souls that they are praying for and having others pray for them. But there are many, many wonderful recipes, so I would encourage you to consider making some soul cakes as you prepare for what we will talk to you about next week and how to celebrate this holiday, both with bringing in your own goals as well as honoring all of those that have gone on before us. The tradition of the soul cakes can be a wonderful thing that you share with those that you love as well. Anytime you bake something or you create something and you pour love into it and you pour whatever your intention is that you're giving to those people, it can be a wonderful offering that they then are able to ingest and to help them as they prepare for the next planning stages that will be coming along very soon in our lives. The offering of soul cakes up to the ghosts is something that you may want to also do. We'll talk a little bit more about that next week, but it's always wonderful to give an offering of plates of whatever the most delicious food is that you're baking this time of year, and putting that on those plates and offering it up to the ancestors or to whatever other higher spirits might be a little bit hungry as they're on the move during this time where the veil begins to thin between the world. We always have the essence and energy of various spirits in various dimensions that are around us. But as that veil begins to thin, and it's already beginning to thin, it continues to thin a bit through the whole time of Halloween, and a bit past it, the veil is still thin, making it easier for others who might not normally be able to see ghosts or to hear the spirits or to feel those messages that they seek from loved ones. It makes it a bit easier because you can see between the veils. It makes it a bit easier for our loved ones sometimes to communicate with us because it takes a bit less energy when the veil is thinner. And the practice of the soul cakes has adapted and changed quite a bit over time, and eventually it shifted to being young children that were asking for food, for money, and for ale. And in our current generation, they don't typically ask for ale, and I don't think they get money very often, but it is very interesting to watch the way all of these change and shift as we go generation to generation and century to century. So many traditions are so much older than so many people realize. And when you start to look at that and you pull back that curtain of seeing where things came from, where the original ideas were inspired from, that's another way to sort of pay homage to the ancestors that have crossed over. So often we think these ideas are new and exciting and brand new and someone just came up with them, and very likely hundreds of years ago there were some pretty similar ideas that were done in other customs. So think about where you can pay that homage to those who have come before us. All of the things that we've learned, technology and all kinds of things, were done where we have these fast advances now because of the work and the labor and the love of so many that we may not even know that have crossed on before us, that had dedicated themselves during this earthly incarnation. There are other recipes for soul cakes that may be very gingery, or you may want to include some of the spices of the season. As we're coming into winter, you might want some cinnamon or some clove or pumpkin spice. Who knows? Whatever you would like to add into those soul cakes. This is a time to really think about your loved ones, to think about your ancestors and anyone whom you would like to honor that has crossed over. It might be that you want to honor people that had crossed over long before now. Every Samhain, I always honor the women and the few amount of men, it wasn't just women, who had been victims of the witch trials that went on from the 15th to the 18th century, and calling out the names of those who had been brutalized in various ways, giving of their lives because of the fear that people had of things that often weren't even things that people were even doing at all. So it can be nice to think about where in history are there people that you would like to honor. It might be that you feel patronage to a country and you want to honor souls that were lost that way, or perhaps souls that were lost at sea, or souls that were lost in a various, so many ways that you can think of. Think about what is close to your heart and whom you would maybe like to honor because of the lives that had been lost in different ways. Just in this last year alone, there have been 120,000 children who have been orphaned due to COVID. Worldwide, that number is about 1.5 million. That is a lot of lives that were lost just in the last year. Perhaps you might think of lighting a candle for the parents that had crossed over, or lighting a candle for the energy and the essence of the children and what they would need, and the source of love and the source of whatever inspiration they need, whatever they need for their needs that they will have coming up. Thinking of lighting a candle for them, even if you don't know them at all, that energy, that essence, that intent is very strong and can carry over to help those souls finish crossing and to help the needs of those who are left behind here as well. Our energy, our intention is infinite. When you use it in ways that are wise and compassionate and kind, you begin creating a legacy that you may not even ever be known for, but you're creating a legacy of love that will continue. This is a wonderful time of year to consider those things and to think about how you would like to prepare for that on All Hallows Eve, and maybe even writing a prayer that you would like to use during it, or an incantation of some sort while you are thinking about what you would like to honor, whom you would like to honor, and how you would like that light of the candle to continue to carry through this beautiful day that we have coming up. One of the other things that you might, so a few of the things that you might want to have for our next Life Talk when we air it on Halloween morning. Some of the things you might need if you'd like to participate are candles. I always like to use white candles because of the purity that represents, and the innocence and the grace of the goodness that comes through the light of the white candle. White contains every color and spectrum of the rainbow within it. And so as you use the candle that is white, you can tap into whatever colors, energies, and spectrums and frequencies that you need to, or that the Great Spirit of life feels would be best if you want to tap into that higher heaven energy as you prepare your ritual next week. You will also want to have apples. You may want to have some acorns or some fall leaves as part of it. Nuts or berries are something that you might use in it as well. And if you want to do the soul cakes, that could be a great addition to what you will be planning on All Hallows Eve. It is also good to plan for some kind of a warm beverage, maybe a warm cider. Maybe you'll want to add some cinnamon or cloves. Cinnamon is great for bringing in abundance. Clove for protection. Orange peel might be something that you would like to add to your spiced cider or some other type of warm drink. Rose petals might be something that you want. We'll be talking about how you could use those next week as well. You might want photos of your loved ones, or photos of the ancestors you want to honor, or photos of those that you don't know but that will represent the group that you want to send love and energy to. And then also bring some paper. Definitely you'll need a pen and paper for some of the high points of what we will be discussing next week as we prepare to turn the wheel into the new year and into the new beginnings that come. Every time we honor our ancestors and we honor what we've done, it is in part because we are preparing for what we're going to do in our next chapter. Life never really ends. It is a circle that continues and goes and goes and goes. So each ending is the preparation for a new beginning. So we'll be talking all about that next Sunday with our Life Talk. Hope that gives you some food for thought, and maybe you can find a good recipe or 2 or 3 for the soul cakes to share with loved ones that are here, as well as leaving some out for the ghosts that might be a bit hungry. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you.